Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. We always appreciate your time. Listen, viewers, it's important that these are strategic times and very challenging periods in the continent of Africa's history. Today, I really want to address the situation that the country of South Africa faces at the moment. I've received a number of comments from my wonderful subscribers saying that things are fine, things are okay. They are, but they are not as okay as we all would have liked it to be. Why am I saying this? South Africa must stand its grounds against the United States of America, irrespective of the position you are taking. Make no mistake, the United States of America is a very important strategic partner for the country of South Africa. And when people write comments, they have become very emotional. Yeah, we don't do emotional discussions. The South African officials have come out clear and say the United States of America's approach to the country of South Africa is disrespectful and is very transactional in terms of their approach. Geopolitics doesn't work this way. That's why I'm saying that, like Ambassador Rasool said, and Foreign Minister Lamola have also emphasized that South Africa want to work with the United States of America. South Africa has been the most mature person in this relationship, irrespective of the differences that these two countries have. Make no error, the United States of America is a very important trading partner. I think it's South Africa's second largest trading partner after China. These are very important times in the continent of African history. Make no mistake again, irrespective of what's going on, South Africa cannot let it go. The government and officials have said they do have sticking positions that they have made. But more importantly, if we see experts coming out and saying that the impact of this particular trading conversation and the tariffs that the United States has levied on South Africa, looking at 31% according to news media, and you think that it's not going to have impact, so I really don't want to sugarcoat things. If you ask the common people, those who are around the job areas, that their particular jobs and salaries and a whole lot of other things will be impacted as a result of the United States of America's 31%, then you begin to understand how things are playing out.
Obviously, when it affects business, it will definitely affect jobs. And this is where our worry is. It will affect jobs, it will affect salaries of the people that are working in these particular sectors.
Listen, folks, the situation between the United States of America and the country of South Africa is unique. It's so unique across the continent of Africa. Make no error. The South African country has come under tremendous pressure from the United States. Let's keep the trade tariffs aside, put it on one side. From AGOA threat to South Africa deciding to be a non-aligned, to South Africa's membership in BRICS, to South Africa's relationship with China, to South Africa's relationship with the country of Russia, and South Africa's position at the ICJ, and South Africa standing up to the United States in a number of areas. So this is completely different from the tariff. I don't want us to mix this. So 31% is no joke for a major economy in the continent of Africa. And South Africa must respond to the United States of America, responding in what I'm talking about here from the strategic point of view. South Africa must look at those areas where some amendments can be made, because we are talking about jobs here. We are talking about people's livelihood. More importantly, when we say that the picture is not looking really good, it's not just us saying it. We listen to what the media says and experts on the ground.
South Africa relations with the US are not great right now. It started with South Africa taking Israel to the International Court of Justice on a genocide charge, and moved into unfounded allegations of ill treatment of minority Afrikaners and accusations of confiscation of land. So there is a lot of diplomatic work to be done.
The tariffs affirm the agency to negotiate a new bilateral and mutually beneficial agreement with the US that will establish a more fair trade relations with the US as an essential step to secure long-term trade certainty.
But if Trump's administration digs its heels in, what's next?
We've done some work that suggests that in the long term, South Africa is likely to become closer and closer to its BRICS partners, particularly Russia and China, and probably further away from its partners in the West.
Make no error, the United States of America has to an extent engaged the country of South Africa from a disrespectful angle. Geopolitics, it's a game that to an extent every country wants to put their interests first. And South Africa, irrespective of its own challenges, internal issues going on at the moment, the country has made it clear that it will be non-aligned and it will align its relationship with diverse partners across the geopolitical spectrum. This is not sugarcoating things. The economy will be impacted if this relationship is not fixed. And the current president of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump, is not an ordinary in terms of presidents that countries will transact or work alongside using diplomacy. He believes in the arrogant approach in terms of his communication style. He wants to intimidate. In the course of doing so, he's looking for leverage. And South African government and expert in the region and economic analysts understand this approach. So if we say that things are not looking good, if we say that it will impact the South African economy, we are not kidding here. We are not CNN, we are not BBC here. We talk geopolitical issues that affect the continent of Africa. We don't put sugar on things. If you want to listen to someone who's going to tell you that things are okay, the economy will be fine as a result of 31% tariff, you go watch some other channel, because we don't do that. We just talk on what the facts are. And it's important because we listen to what the experts who are in the industry, as we've seen Lesotho be lambasted with 50%. I'm not saying that Lesotho is not going to come out from this. Of course, it's going to have a huge impact in that country's development in a number of areas, considering that Lesotho, according to the figures, saying that they did not and they have not been charging the United States 90% or 99% of the tariff, and the United States of America's figures do not align to what they see in the books. So let's stop talking very emotional discussions here. I'm saying here, we don't sugarcoat things here. We say what the impact will be. Farmers, experts, industry analysts have come out and looked at the data and say that if the United States of America's approach is not being pushed back by the country of South Africa, by South Africa standing its grounds in a whole lot of areas, it's going to be a huge impact in the country's economy.
A swathing round of trade tariffs by the United States has sent jitters around the world. While most nations face a minimum tax of 10% to do business with the US, many others, including 20 African countries, have been penalized with reciprocal tariffs for running large trade deficits with the US. Lesotho was hardest hit, fetching the highest rate of 50%, while goods from other African countries could cost the American consumer between 30 and 47% more. The move has been met by astonishment across much of Africa.
This is a fundamentally nonsensical, counter-historic step. It's a defensive one. It's if you want the previous hegemon who created a free trade world order, saying this is not working for us, so we're gonna deleverage, if you want. We're gonna shut down and we're going to reindustrialize. The fact of the matter is that that's not likely to happen. The cost will be much higher than the benefits.
The harsh measures effectively nullify the protection of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, which exempt many countries from import taxes since it was implemented in 2000. AGOA has underpinned growth in high-volume products such as vehicles, agricultural produce and textiles. Losing the agreement will have catastrophic consequences for countries who have come to depend on it.
It will be detrimental to employment opportunities. It will have effect in the economy, but even in the long term, if value supply chains leave your economy, it takes more than just the labor away. It also takes innovation and technology and all the other factors that come with it is also being detrimentally impacted.
We looked at the particular stock market in South Africa, how it went down even in the United States of America, was greatly affected, and global economy. Every country is re-strategizing itself. And more importantly, what I'm trying to say here is that it is about time that the continent of Africa start looking inward. I'm not going to shy from saying that. I'm not saying that African countries cannot look for global partners, but more importantly, you must start looking internally, because these are crucial times in your survival. It is so simple. There is nothing to be sugar-coated here. The President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump, has singled out South Africa to remind them that the relationship in the next 4 years will be brutal. It's not going to be any diplomatic engagement. It will be that of condescending and leverage engagement and looking for opportunity. Make no mistake, Mr. Trump is fighting for his own country, and South African officials too must stand their grounds by discussing relevant terms, looking at areas where it's going to be for a win-win situation in both sides. So these are important times in the continent of African history, and South Africa in particular. So if people comment on the comment section and becoming very emotional, we are not emotional here. We just basically tell you what the figures are, what the impact is going to be. And if you look at the figures, like South African officials are very concerned in a number of areas. Considering AGOA, I don't really want to go into AGOA because South Africa is a major player in AGOA. If the AGOA is impacted, which we've seen in the 2025 this year, if it is cut off, there's going to be a huge problem, whether you like it or not. We look at data. I'm not a spring chicken. I've been to 40 countries across the continent of Africa. I know what the relationship will be. I'm not advocating for the continent of Africa to sever its ties with the United States. Not at all. African countries must have investment in the African continental free trade area. The continent of Africa must work closer. You must have external partners. The United States of America, to an extent, China, Russia, including the European Union fringe powers, the Middle Eastern partners, India, Turkey, and other very important strategic partners that you need. So the United States of America, being a partner of South Africa, comes with a lot of very big concern, because the South African economy heavily, to an extent, depends in terms of their bilateral negotiation and export and import between the United States of America and the country of South Africa. So this is not something that we're going to be talking around like mixing up stuff. No, not at all. South Africa could be in a difficult spot if it does not navigate this relationship carefully. So keep the emotion aside. Let's talk issues here, because South Africa must stand its grounds. The United States of America's leader is someone that wants to test the waters. If you are weak in terms of economy, in terms of its, if it's shenanigan that it throws at you, if you do not stand your grounds, he's going to use that as a leverage to negotiate. So it's important.
While AGOA isn't completely off the table just yet, African leaders are confident they will be able to still strike a deal.
The trade ministers are meeting sometime this month in the DRC, at which AGOA would be on our agenda, and the intention would be that we would also be able to formulate an approach collectively as we go and engage on AGOA.
AGOA comes up for renewal in September, but there is no telling on whether it will last until then. In the absence of the agreement, many African countries already battling high debt rates may not be able to compete in the US market, which could be a huge setback to trade and economic growth. Julie Shara, CGTN, Cape Town.
This situation is not unique to South Africa. The United States of America itself is feeling the pinch. China has come out and lambasted the United States of America, reminding them that we too can put tariff. And France, in the European Union, and the United Kingdom, other major economies in Europe, including the country of Germany and Brussels, they are working together. They are looking for means to respond to the United States of America. And if I hear people come on the channel and say we should not talk about that the South African economy or African countries' economy are not going to be doing better, not at all. We're not going to tell you what you don't want to hear. If you're looking for what you want to hear, we encourage you to watch other channels. Yeah, we will point it out the way it is. where the impact are, where it will pinch if Africa does not respond. We are not talking about how the continent of Africa should leave its partners. We have to focus on the things that matters. The world is moving so fast, and the United States of America is taking a different approach. South Africa is a very important economy in the continent of Africa, and that will not change. And the continent of Africa is observing how South Africa is going to deal with this particular situation. That will have a ripple effect across the continent of Africa. It is an important African economy. If things are not going well in terms of this particular approach that the United States of America is having with the country of South Africa, and people say that all things are okay, things are not okay. South Africa must respond. It must respond to the United States, but in a collaborative way, in areas which are relevant in terms of their partnership and growth together. We have to share each other. However, South Africa will not go and leave BRICS. South Africa will stay within BRICS, will follow up with a number of very important areas. So these are critical times in the country of South Africa's history, and I understand that the officials are looking at different particular scenarios on how to work with the United States of America, and that also goes alongside other countries across the continent of Africa. So
as these African countries prepare for a life with a lot less U.S. exports, supporters of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement say there is no better time for African countries to trade with each other. The World Bank estimates that Africa's 54 countries have a combined gross domestic product of $3.4 trillion, providing a lucrative market for African products and jobs for its 1.5 billion population. Tuso Kumalo, TRT World, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And again, like the former ambassador, Mr. Rasool has said that United States of America, irrespective of the shenanigans, is an important strategic business partner for the country of South Africa. And everyone understands the importance of AGOA. However, despite that, South Africa does have its own positions that it should stand with, and the United States of America understands that. So South Africa should not waver. It should involve the United States and discuss on topics and very important issues, because we are talking about livelihood here involved. So separate the 31% from the problems that have been over the past couple of decades between these two countries, and South Africa as a major African economy should demonstrate that to an extent it's ready to pay the price. However, make some adjustment in some areas to keep the relationship going, but to an extent build its global south roots to make sure that this particular signal that the United States has sent around the world, and specifically to the country of South Africa, is not just about the 31%. South Africa's situation goes far beyond the thing that I listed to you, and more importantly, the African continent is observing very closely how South Africa will respond to the United States of America's shenanigans in terms of this particular trade aspect. There are pains involved, and these are not times for being emotional. These are times where the continent of Africa must go back to the drawing board and do not be optimistic, because the relationship between the United States of America and the continent of Africa at the moment is at all-time low. It's the worst as it's ever been in history. Donald Trump, to an extent, is simply reminding the continent of Africa and African countries, and South Africa in particular, that it will not be business as usual, that it is about time you start looking for other options, because the next 4 years was going to be brutal, and that's not what African countries are expecting. So the continent of Africa, and South Africa in particular, must go back to the drawing board and become very skeptical, because the relationship with the United States of America is at all-time low. It's deteriorating by the day. As we've seen how economies around the world are preparing to respond to the United States, South Africa too must stand its ground. So keep the emotional discussion aside and focus on what's important at this time, because the United States of America is not missing its words, and Africa, and South Africa in particular, must also know that there are jobs on the line, and that its reputation is on the line, and how it deals with this moment with the United States of America will go down in history. So what I'm saying here is, and when I see people come to the comment section and right, very emotional response. No, it's not a time for being emotional in terms of geopolitics. It's a brutal game. You must pick and choose your position. South Africa should have its positions that is not going to waver on those aspects, and more importantly, deal with the United States. Don't make no mistake, like I said, it's a very important trading partner, but that does not mean that South Africa is not an important trading partner. Why am I saying this? Because we do not have to be emotional at this particular time. We have to look at what the facts says, what the figures are saying, and then respond to the United States in a very strong geopolitical language, and South Africa must be ready to feel the pinch and stand its grounds. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and have a good day. Bye-bye.